everybody, how you doing? Glad you're down here one more time. Actually, hopefully, many more times. Today we're going to talk about independence. Independence. And we're going to do it mainly in relation to the swing genre. However, independence can go for everything, and truth be told, in Latin and in swing, you really need more independence more readily. You use it a lot more in those grooves than you would in, let's say, just a standard rock groove or an R&B groove. Independence. What is independence? It is when each limb operates separately from the others, where each limb can carry on a different rhythm. And while I'm in the swing family, we did shuffles and we did some swing work last week with the syncopation book, which is a good way to work. Here's something: you don't need any books, you don't need anything else, but this is not going to be all that easy. You want to take this stuff slow and you want to build it up. And we're going to start with really these 15-20 minutes worth of exercises, and you will gain some independence. And just to let you know, some of this stuff may not work for every song, every application, and every way. Even on swing grooves, when you're in a band situation, you're going to decide that. Some of this is stuff you might want to use for fills, but this is just to open up the signal, the neural pathways, to let your body know it does not have to always work in concert with each other. So what does it enable you to do? It just gives you more roads, more avenues available to you to do what you're hearing easily, readily, and like that, right? Because when you hear something, and today in the business, the days of bands are kind of gone. There's still some of that, but not as much. Now you're a drummer, you're out there, I'm playing with different people all the time. Of course, with the pandemic, that's slowed down. Your regulars kind of stay a little bit. But when I walk into a situation, I have to make decisions in the first 8, 12, 16 bars of how I'm going to approach it tune. A lot of times it's songs I've never heard before, and I hear something and I want my body just to facilitate it. So let's just get right into this. I'm taking too much more time. So let's start with this. This is a great exercise that I got partially from Steve Gadd and partially just from myself working through the years. So first, we're going to eventually work up to the swing beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? We're going to work up to that. For now, we're going to stay on quarter notes on the hi-hat, and we're going to put the second 2 of each triplet on the snare. Remember, I am building toward the end of this video, which is going to be very, very independent, very multifaceted, and you want to take this step by step. But when you're done, you're going to be there. And this won't, take you 20 minutes. It's going to take you a little while. So as you know, in swing, we're working on the triplet, right? 1, 2 into 3, 4 into 1, right? So that 1 enda, 2 enda, 3 enda, 4 enda is all going to be on the snare. Watch. 1 enda, 2 enda, 3 enda, 4 enda, 1 enda, 2 enda, 3 enda, 4 enda, 1 enda, 2 enda, 4 enda, 1 enda, 2 enda, 3 enda, 4 enda. Okay, now let's add a little speed to it so you can hear it. This part actually sounds good, and you can use it in a lot of sort of even rock grooves for fills. Very easy, not that independent so far. Now we're going to add the duh of 2 and the duh of 4 with the snare. Let's go slow. I'll go slow, and then I'm going to pick up the speed. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. There you go, those last 2, and I got the swing groove happening. Let's do it a little more up-tempo. By the way, I will do the last bit that I'm going to do, which is really fully independent with a metronome. For now, to save time and for the ability to kind of change my speeds from moment to moment, we're going to do without the metronome. So here we go. Here's a little more up-tempo. let's move it over to the cymbal, because we want to add the hi-hat clicking on 2 and 4. And if you're doing swing, straight up swing, you called for that band and tonight and you got to play straight up swing, generally if you've never heard some of the tunes, you can start with that hi-hat on 2 and 4 and the swing pattern on the cymbal, because that's where you start. After the first 8, 10, 12 bars, you might realize, okay, that's not working so much with this tune, but if you've never heard the tune before and they're calling out swing, that's where you want to start most of the time. So watch, now we're going to be here. 1, 2 into 3, 4 into 1, 2 into 3, and 4 into 1. So now I got a little more independence, and I'm going to put those last 2 triplets of every triplet back on the snare. Nice and slow at first, and I'll stop and I'll do it more up-tempo. We're getting more independent. Now we've got more going on. Let's do that more up-tempo. You'll see actually that sounds pretty good. There you go. Now we've got 3 limbs working together, but kind of independently, right? We got this here. We got this here. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we got here 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, right? But our 4th limb, the bass drum, is doing very little at the moment. All right? We want to change that. So, what's a good place to start with the bass drum? Let's start with the easiest place first. And that would be all 4. Now, if you got called to play this weekend, and I know with the pandemic you probably won't, but if you got called for this weekend to play a swing thing, remember swing started out as dance music, and you don't know what kind of swing and you don't know what they're going to call out. That's another good place to start. It's another thing you need to have in your arsenal, which is all 4 on the floor, played lightly. They call it feathering. We just tap that bass drum nice and light, right? Because we want to give that a little bit of pulse to make it a little more danceable than just 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So if I just put the bass drum in without my hand, right, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't want it heavy. We don't want that. We want it very light. Now, again, nice and slowly, let's add that snare part. So now we're going to have the second 2 of the triplet, swing, 2 and 4, 4 and 4 on the floor on the bass. Here we go. And there you go. Let's do that again a little more up-tempo. There you go, right? That is a very cool swing groove, but still we're not quite as independent as I want us to be. So let's break up that bass drum a little bit. So this is really right out of the GAD playbook. We're going to add duh 3. So we're going to go 1, the duh of 2, and 3. So now our bass drum, our snare, the cymbal is all going to hit on the duh of 2, okay? Going to just the cymbal hitting by itself on 3. Right? Let's do it nice and slow so you can see it. Here we go. Let's add now duh 4. So now we got bum, ba bum, ba bum. Let's do a little more up-tempo. Now, again, we're getting there. We're getting to independence. Now, here's where we start to get a little more difficult. Okay. So we want to add now, let's add the duh of 1. Ba-bum-bum, 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 ba-bum-bum. Going nice and slow. Let's go a little more tempo. Now, this is where I'm kind of getting out of the feathering a little bit, because when you're doing grooves like that, you're probably going to be have to use your bass drum a little more prominently. And let's talk about the bass drum and swing for a second. There's, just so you know the genre, there are 3 sort of approaches to the bass drum and swing. You've got, as we just talked about, the 4 on the floor, which is really for the more older versions of the swing, which was really dance tempo. Although it does work in some of the new stuff, and it does work in shuffles and things like that. And then you've got what's called the bomb, right? And that's where there's very little going on between the bass drum and the snare. It's mostly snare, cymbal, and hi-hat, and you throw just those hits in kind of in off places, and that would sound like this. Right, just kind of out there. Not so much of a conversation between the two, but more like just your accenting pulses, adding a little color, and even then I was probably more busier than I would be in a regular tune with my bass drum. I would be probably even more sparse with it, just hitting that boom on the duh of 4, the duh of 3, or something like that, okay? All right, and the last version of that is a real conversation, which is what we were just doing, you know, between the snare and the bass drum. Kind of like this. Getting into the bass drum and the snare talking to one another while that swing pattern is going on. And if you noticed, I didn't stick religiously to that chang-chang-a-lang, chang-a-lang, chang-a-lang. And in reality, if you were playing in a band situation, if you just did that all the way through a tune or most of a night, it would get monotonous, and you don't want to do that if you're doing swing. Okay, you want to mix it up a little bit, be more phrase-oriented. So now, let's go to this sort of the last phrase, or the last chapter of this independence thing that we're going to cover today. All right, let's talk about the entire bar of triplets. Okay, we're going to do this in 2 fashions. First of all, we can do triplets between the bass drum and the snare all the way through, right? Which would be 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a, right? We have the hi-hat, 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. Right now, we can add the cymbal on top of that. But we're going to start the bass drum on beat 1, doing that whole roll. Now I've got the bass drum and the snare doing 8th note triplets. That's 12 notes in the bar. I'm going to have the hi-hat on 2 and 4, and I'm going to have the swing pattern doing 1, 2, 3. Okay? Not too quick, and then I'll pick it up. Let's go a little quicker. All right. Now you hear that little roll going on. Again, that would be more like a fill. Wouldn't be something I would do through a whole song that would drive everybody crazy, would drive me crazy. And it's a little bit of a pain to keep that up all the way through. So, the last one. We're kind of going to do the same bass drum part, but we're going to unite this with the other snare part of every last two. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and this is hard, guys. So what actually are we doing? We are doing 6 notes, 6 even notes to the bar on the bass drum, commonly known as quarter note triplets. What are quarter note triplets? If you don't know, email me and let's get to some online lessons. For 8 lessons, 25 bucks a lesson, it's worth it. I'll teach you how to read. And that opens up gigs like cruise ships and theater gigs and community plays, and who knows where you could end up if you learn how to read. All that stuff is available to you if you know how to read. And let's face it, we don't know what's going to open up or not going to open up after the pandemic if you want to work. All right? So, quarter note triplets, since in any given bar there are 12 eighth note triplets that are possible. Quarter note triplets, since a quarter note equals 2 eighth notes, if we take the 12 divided by 2, we have 6 bass drum notes. So the bass drum is going to play, and I'm going to just count it out for you. 1 and a, 2 and a, 3 and a, 4 and a, 1 and a, 2 and a, 3 and a, 4 and a. Again, let's take this by the numbers. This is hard. Let's start this here on the hat and the snare. This is where you should start it. And let's get these 3 happening, right up to the swing beat, and then move it over to the cymbal where we add the hi-hat on 2 and 4. Are you ready? I'm gonna try to count it all out. It's kind of independent actually, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to do it. Hear what I'm doing? Let's change that to swing. Okay, again, that's not something I would do a lot in a tune. I might do it as a fill or in a solo, a swing solo for 4 bars or something, but I wouldn't do that all the time. Now, the last part of this, and I'll close the video with this. Let's do it slow, and then put the metronome on and do it with that, okay? So here we go. Nice and slow. Now we're going to do swing on the ride. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 2 and 4 on the hat. Second 2 triplets here, and quarter note triplets on the bass drum. Guys, gals, this is hard, okay? Work up to this. Work with me on this. Stop it, learn each part, right? And the road to this really is that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, right? That'll get you there. Here we go. Nice and slow. That is difficult. It's even difficult at slow tempos. Let's do it with the metronome and let's take it at, I don't know, somewhere around 130, okay? Be right back. Bing! Okay, so that is actually set for 70 or so beats a minute which, at 2 and 4, which is like 140. Alright, so I'm going to do a couple of bars of this, maybe 4, maybe, I'm not sure. And then I'm going to take a little fill, and I'm going to go back to it, because that is the difference between playing and owning. If you can leave it and come back, it's yours. if you can, it's going to be hard when you're playing a tune just to jump in and jump out, because that's what you got to do. So let's go. 2, 1, 3, 4. That is tough. That's one of the toughest things you would have to do, ever. And like I said, maybe, I would play that for a couple of bars in a solo, or, I don't know, maybe like a little colorish fill in a tune. I wouldn't do it that long, and I wouldn't do it that often, but you want to be able to jump into it, If you're right here, you happen to hear it and you want to go there, right? You just want to be able to jump in. Without fuss or muss, because remember, that jazz is about improvisation, and that's what that's for. But more than being musical, because to be honest with you, I don't think that is that musical. That's just going to enable you to have each limb doing a different thing. Anyway, I hope you're doing okay. Hope you're doing all right. This kind of was a little bit of a rough week for me. I do have some shows coming up on the west side of Michigan. I hope I catch you. Outdoor shows. Folks, live well.